All right.
Okay, we are now broadcasting live on YouTube. I'll just let you know I was running behind, but here I am 10 minutes early and we're all ready to go. So as soon as you have everybody in the meeting and you're ready to get it started, you can get it started.
Ready? Let's see here.
And I'll just play with my hair.
Yeah, I'm still trying myself. I'm still trying to get a couple little things ready to go.
I'm going to turn the lights down in here a little bit. Turn the lights on.
All right, Scott's coming on board here. Hey, Scott, you there? Hey, Scott, you there?
I'm there.
All right.
Hang on a
Oh.
second. Let me get this. There we go.
I was just reading your email. I'm afraid I was been running around this morning.
Some of you have to work, right? Unlike the rest of us.
No, I try not to work too much. Most of my work got kaputs during the COVID-19. So while I'm looking for work, I don't actually have a lot these days.
Chris, I wanted to mention on my end, as people start to come into the meeting, I will add them and admit them. You can also admit them because you're a co-host. Once the meeting starts, I have to take the list of people down so that it's just a policy that we have. So the only thing that shows on the screen are all the people Brady bunched together.
Okay.
That means that if anybody calls in to give comment, I'm not going to see that phone number and I'm not going to be able to facilitate that. So that's why you're the co-host.
Okay.
So if you see people calling in for comment, you can handle that process. If you need any help, let me know, but then I'll have to change the screen view over on this end to be able to see it myself.
Okay, sounds
I've
good.
met you before, but I surely don't recognize you with the mask on.
Oh, I don't know that you know who I am. I am Kirsten. I'm the
Yeah.
senior deputy city clerk.
Yeah, you came
Okay.
to one of our meetings when we were not, our very first meeting, right before everything broke. You
Oh,
were
yeah.
there helping us out.
I was.
And
I do
trying,
the tech end, help to set up people. Yeah.
yeah, I know you were doing a heroic job of trying to keep us on track.
Yeah, Marianne, I don't know if you guys are aware, but her last day was last Friday. So until finance department gets her position refilled, Marty and I will be stepping in to help out with the committees that she handled.
Yeah, that's two in a month or two.
Well, I know that Chase is going to be here.
Oh, is he gonna make it? I just sent him a note asking him to attend. Again, I kind of got distracted this morning.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain he was planning on being here.
Ready?
Well, he's got 7 minutes, so there's plenty of time.
So you guys are just going to take a vote on this MOU so we can push it forward to the council tonight?
That's the idea. Yeah, we'll have a discussion and then see if it moves forward. It's not, it certainly is far from a done deal at this point. Isn't that right, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, I sent Chris a long, detailed email about why I think this MOU needs to be changed.
Yeah, I was just
But
reading
we
it.
probably want to wait until Chase is here.
I just
he's
entered
coming.
somebody named Maj Nichols, and I
Yeah.
see a Josh Nichols. Is this supposed to be Josh Nichols?
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be Josh.
Okay, I will change the name. There we go. Those are the kind of things I won't be able to do once we start the meeting.
All right. Yeah, I can get that. I'm looking for my little script thing here I'm supposed to use.
Yes, thank you for changing that, Maj Nichols. I don't know why that's become my default, but
Is that somebody else in your family?
no, it's, I'm in the Air National Guard on the side, and I did training a few weeks ago, and I'm a major. And I was required to log in that way, and now that it just defaults to that, so.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Well, welcome, Major.
Well, thank you.
Chris, I also sent the email to Mirtha.
Okay, sounds good. And just to let both you, Scott and Josh, know, we're currently live on YouTube, so that's already running. The meeting hasn't officially started, but we are on YouTube.
We didn't get anybody last time on YouTube.
No, we
Or we
didn't.
got no public comment.
Right, just in case somebody's.
Chris, as soon as you start the meeting, I'm going to black out my screen. People don't need to see me and get confused.
All right.
So you're aware, I'll still be here.
All right, so I got my script going here now. Got a new computer since the last time, so I actually have a microphone on my computer now.
Yeah, and you don't have a breakup in your voice.
Yeah, I didn't have the right
You
tool.
looked like some guy who was working in an air traffic controller who couldn't make contact with any of the planes and they were about to crash.
It wasn't the reason I got my new computer, but it didn't hurt either. Okay, looks like Michael joined us. And one person, Brian Kearns. I'm going to admit Brian Kearns. So it's.
Yes, sir. Hello, gentlemen and lady.
Hello, hello.
Okay, it looks like Michael's got a mic now. He didn't initially have a mic when he came in.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Is that Brian?
Yeah, there
Yes.
you are.
We can. Michael, we weren't sure whether or not we could hear you. Did he already give a sound check?
Yeah,
You know, I have not, oh, it looks like he just got unmuted.
yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Michael?
Yeah, just I've got some background noise I didn't want bleeding into the meeting.
Okay.
gotcha. And Josh is muted and Brian muted.
Okay, I'm going to visually back out here.
All right. Thanks, Kristen.
Mhm.
I did hear from Rob and he's going to join us. And that's about it so far. So we got 2 minutes to start.
Oh, no. Wait. All right. We're okay. Just had a minor problem with the other computer with the database. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and become the invisible person in the background. So if you need anything specifically from me, Chris, I'm still here and you can just let me know.
All righty, sounds good. All right, so it's 1 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and officially get this meeting started. I'm going to be on this other little page here. Going to tell me my little script. Okay.
Hello, Chris.
Hey, Jeremy. Okay.
How are you?
so, welcome to the Energy and Conservation Team meeting. All the meeting body members are attending from a remote location. We're holding this meeting virtually, so we'll be doing public comment a little differently than usual via a live call-in and phone line, just like calling in a radio show or to make a pledge during a telethon. I'm going to ask you, our meeting host, to share our public comment call-in information, or I can let you know in a minute. When you call in, you'll be in a virtual waiting room until it's your turn to comment. We will take calls in the order received because this works just like a live call-in show. Be sure to mute your TV or computer when you join the meeting out there, or there will be an echo. There is a 3-minute limit on speaking. So let's get started with the meeting of the Energy and Conservation Team, calling that to order. So
Chris, you
first
sound very quiet to me. Is anybody else? Can everybody else hear okay?
I can.
I can't
Yeah, I
too.
can hear. I can hear.
I'm going to sign out and come back in because I can barely hear you. I'll be right back.
All righty. So there's the public comment information for anybody who wishes to join in. You call in at 253-215-8782. The meeting ID is 960-049-3694. Okay, so I'm going to take the roll call. I'm looking for my agenda here, so I can do that. Sorry for being a little bit on. Okay, Brian Kearns is here. Gwen Langford. And Michael is here. Robin Saha, you there yet? Okay, not there yet. Josh, you're here. Chris is here. Jeremy, you're back on, right?
Yep, I'm on and it's much louder, so that's better.
All right, and Scott, you're here. All right, and Amber is here. Is Chase Jones here? Not yet. All right.
I'm here, Chris. I have been here.
Okay, thank you, Chase. All
I
right.
don't know if you can see me.
Right now, we're just looking at the call-in number. Oh, I see you there. Yeah. So we can go ahead and take that number down, Kristen. And so we can-
Chris, I would just like to confirm first, the two people I have absent are Gwen Spencer and Robin Saha. Is that correct?
Correct. And Robin Saha, I'm admitting him right now. So Robin Saha is in attendance. Hey, Robin. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So on the agenda, we have the next one. I don't have any announcements. Does anybody else have any announcements that they would like to share with the team? Okay, no announcements. Public comments on items not listed on the agenda or public comments in general. So with that number that we provided, we're going to give 1 minute for folks to dial in, and because there's a delay from when I speak to when they would see it on the YouTube channel. So we'll give it a minute here. Oh, so Gwen Langford is here. So everybody is here. Wow, a full house. Thank you, everybody, for attending. That's fantastic. All righty. So we don't, at the moment, have any public comments. We'll open it up again once we start our action agenda. Next up is the action agenda. For discussion is the resolution from the Energy and Conservation Team, Resolution 2020-1, in support of the MOU, the draft MOU that's going to the City Council tonight at their 6 o'clock meeting regarding clean energy goals between the City of Missoula, Missoula County, and Northwest Energy. So everyone's had a link to that was provided in the agenda. Anyone else needs it? There's been some comment that's come online, so we'll give everyone a chance to share that information. Also on the call is Chase. So my thought initially was we would provide a little time to start with a question and answer, or having Chase here. We can have our own little discussion, but it would be nice, at least at the beginning, to have Chase here to answer any questions we might have. We kind of went over the MOU at a regularly scheduled meeting last week, and he was able to answer some of their questions about what sort of changes would occur between that version and this version. I'll say the one besides the dates and the signature page, there was one whereas added that addressed the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and that relevance in the reason this whole thing should go forward. So I'm going to open up the floor. Remember, we want to make sure that we don't have two people talking at once. You can always raise your hand or just try to make sure that if somebody is talking, you don't talk over them. I saw Scott raised his hand. So Scott, what do you have for us?
I have a question for Chase. And let me preface this by noting that I know a lot of work has gone into this MOU, but I have a number of concerns which I've shared with Chris and a couple of the other committee members. One of the things that gives me pause, Chase, is first of all, the date that Northwest Energy has picked, namely 2010, by which they intend to, by 2045, come back to that 210 number. What's the carbon mix in 210? So what I can envision, just being a little bit paranoid here for a moment, is Northwest is still trying to buy one of the cold strip power plants. So if they bought that plant and then they simply shut it down by 2045 and the ratepayers paid for the decommissioning of that plant, they might well be able to meet their 2010 target, depending on what the energy mix was at that time. So why the 210? Because I've been involved in several climate change plans, and I've never yet seen a company or city or state going to the date 210.
Yeah, Chase.
I appreciate your question. And I'm afraid I can't speak for Northwestern Energy. And so it's likely unhelpful, but I do not know the reason that they chose 2010 to set that carbon intensity reduction goal. It looks like Robin's hand is raised, and
Let's let Chase finish.
that is a carbon intensity reduction goal. That is not a climate action plan of theirs. And also that goal was created and announced by them, not because of this MOU or even our resolution. That was a company carbon intensity reduction goal. And those goals are a list of goals that we've set as local government and goals that they have set as a utility. And so that is intended to just be a list of stated and or adopted goals by either of the parties involved in this MOU. And I'm afraid I can't answer for them why they chose 2010. Bob Rowe, the CEO of Northwestern Energy, will be on Zoom tonight at the full city council meeting, as well as John Bushnell, who is the designated liaison by Northwestern Energy that's been working with us. And so I'm sorry they're not on this call today, but that they will be there tonight. I don't know the answer to that. I'm so sorry.
Robin, can you provide some feedback on that? Or did you have a question?
I would just, sure, thanks. I would just add that around 2010, and Brian, I saw raise his hand, may be able to give the exact figures, but I believe their carbon intensity, I'm sorry, their carbon-free generation might have been around 40% then, and that was before they purchased all the dams. And so I think they like to use that date because they can then get credit for reducing emissions through the purchase of all the former Montana Power dams. And so that may be helpful to know, so, and if it's true, then they still need to get another 30%. Is that, I think that's
40%.
Roughly what rough figures. I don't know if anyone has better ones, but
yeah, and that's a broader question. Maybe we don't answer now, but what numbers are Northwestern using, or how do we get those? Hey, Brian, what did you have a comment or some support there?
Yeah, well, first off, when you say raise your hands, you want like a visual hand raise on this video, or do you want the chat?
Either one
There.
works. I'm watching everybody on the screen, and either I get a little hands up in a electronically or, visually.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm fine with either.
So I don't have any more clarification on the numbers that were being bandied about. I just had some general comments about the MOU. Do you want me to speak those or hold back?
Just a minute, Brian. I think Scott had some other questions. So let's finish with some of the stuff Scott had, and then we'll go to your questions and comments. Scott, back to you.
I'm going to hold because I have a whole list of comments rather than questions for Chase. That was my big one. So let me give other people an opportunity here.
Okay, so next up is Brian.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I heard Scott at the last meeting, and I know those comments persist. And as I reread the MOU and pondered these things, I mean, the MOU, if it's the best we can do, I guess it's the best we can do, and I want to be in support of that, and I guess keep the dialogue open. But it's basically an agreement to agree. It's basically kicking the can down the road. There's not really much in alignment between the two companies, and I just wonder. I mean, you contrast this with their vigorous efforts in every legislation to derail anything that smacks of renewable energy. I just wonder if we're just playing unwittingly into some PR campaign that they can roll out and say, oh, well, look, we signed this MOU with the city, so it reeks of greenwashing. And again, I want to be supporting. If this is the best we can do, it's the best we can do, and I'll be in support of it. But I guess I agree with Scott in a lot of it just rankles me, I guess.
Yeah, we've heard that from other folks. Hey, Chase, you've been involved in this for quite a while, and I know you've heard that comment about greenwashing and PR campaign. So obviously, you've thought that this is worthy to bring forward to the city council tonight, along with your other partners with the county and Northwest Energy. Can you give us a sense why you think this is not this is, I don't want to say the best we can get, but why this is the right next step? Or one of my thoughts is what follows the steps that's going to give us some of that concrete, some of that, whether it's money or firm goals or other things that we can more hang our hat on. So Chase.
Sure, that's nearly impossible to answer. I can't, if people think that it's greenwashing, that's their decision. I'll tell you what's in the MOU. And MOUs are agreements to work together. And so at the highest level, the city, the county, and Northwestern Energy are agreeing to work together toward our stated 100% clean electricity goals. In the MOU, it says, now therefore be it resolved that the parties agree to work together to pursue mutually beneficial projects and programs that advance the city and county's 100% clean electricity goal. And they list those areas that we agree to work together toward. They are new utility scale renewables, new being important, new community scale renewables, also new being important, expanded energy efficiency, conservation, and other demand side measures. And then we also have electrification of transportation, which is part of how we're going to get to 100% clean electricity, as well as grid modernization and resilience planning. And so to me, those are very specific areas that we are agreeing to work together in this MOU. A little further down, we also identify that changes to Montana state law have to be made. And so we list there that the parties agree to cooperate on the following activities that include working in both the Public Service Commission at the statewide level. There are changes there that need to happen, as well as in the state legislature. We have a session coming up in 2021. We also list in that same section working together on a community-wide renewable solution at the state level policy, as well as data sharing, which has been a gap for a long time. And I'm hoping that that item will improve as a result of this MOU as well. So specifically, I think those are important pieces that the three parties are stating on the record to work together toward. So I guess I just want to point those out. I'm sure you read those, and you know, I can understand how there could be more trust with the utility. I know many of you, and I respect many of you, have worked with the utility over the years. And I can't speak for your experiences, good or bad. So this is an effort to put some specific things down in an agreement that we publicly agree and sign if it is adopted by City Council and the Board of County Commissioners to work on those things toward our 100% clean electricity goal.
Okay, Scott, and then Jeremy. And then
If I may say one more thing as well, MOUs by design are very high level. And so this is just a framework. I'll use that again. And, you know, it does direct the parties to create an implementation plan with, you know, more detail under each of those things that I just said. And we did have the date of that implementation plan to be completed by December 1st. Of 2020, which that was because of COVID for the last 3 months have sort of delayed everything. I think we all wish that were sooner. I also would say we felt it important to draft this agreement with the utility. We studied other what we consider peer cities across the country. They are also working with their utility, especially in the scenario and environment that we are in, which is a regulated monopoly utility landscape. They provide 95% of the electricity and power for our community. And so as a step, we feel that outlining areas to work together toward our goal and moving forward with that implementation plan and implementation is important for all of those reasons. I will say this isn't the only way that we can get to 100%. This is one of them. And we also have a community roadmap that will align with and augment what we do with the utility that is also forthcoming. And so that would include things like community energy efficiency initiatives, as well as campaigns for more rooftop solar to, again, be another part of the solution. And it will take all of them.
Excellent. Thank you, Chase. That was very informative. Scott?
Chase, I think we're all familiar with MOUs and the extent to which they are high level. But the environment in which these are created is critical. So for example, you've compared other cities and their plans, but the reality, for example, is our monitoring body in Montana has acted as though it basically supported everything that Northwest Energy wanted to do. And in other states, you have a regulated body being told what they have to do to help accomplish the goals laid out by a city like Missoula. One of my concerns also about this MOU is there are a lot of things that are stuck in here in terms of, well, it's great to cooperate, but note, as you already have, that everything in here says the ratepayers will cover all of the costs. So I think this gives Northwest Energy a lot of leverage in working with regulatory bodies that perhaps you didn't intend. And therefore, I really think the MOU requires a little additional work, and some of the items that are in here are designed to make Northwest Energy look good. And ultimately, I think the city may find itself being embarrassed as people complain about rate increases, which this MOU seems to almost guarantee.
Thank you, Scott. That's a good point. Let's get some of the other questions here and then we'll go back to Chase. So next up was Jeremy.
I guess the question that I had, the piece of information that I'd like more information about is, Chase, specifically the implementation plan. You know, how does that implementation plan get created? Who is involved with that? And as there are, you know, negotiations or disagreements when it comes to an implementation plan, if one entity feels like it's, you know, too aggressive of a plan and one entity feels like it's too cautious, how does that get resolved?
Okay, so that's another question. So we've got a few lining up for Chase, but let's hear from Gwen first, and then maybe we'll go back to Chase. Gwen?
I guess a couple of things. I feel like in my professional life, I've been party or helped support a lot of MOUs, especially when it comes to tribal sovereign issues. And I think that in my experience, something that's really important for us to remember is that MOU is a really big opportunity to create relationship. And I think that sometimes, especially when you have such disparate entities, it can be a pathway to start to create relationship that's actually really critical to coming to some kind of resolution. I don't want to diminish all the really important and critical points, Scott, that you're making and that others are making, you know, in opposition to this MOU. I don't think that it's perfect by any means, but a couple things that give me comfort is that I really do trust Chase. I trust some of the people that we have that are actually on the front lines and that will be part of implementing this. And I trust that there is going to be some opportunity to create some new pathways, I'm hoping. I think that right now the tenor in our community and in our nation is a tenor for change. I don't think that there's going to be a way to continue forward with the same old things. Of course, you know, I almost find difficulty in engaging with this process because I really am feeling more and more as each moment goes by in this time that we just need to scrap everything, because I think it's becoming clear that most of the systems we've been operating under are no longer tenable. But we find ourselves here. We find ourselves in need to create some kind of partnership because these are the entities that are the players. And I do think that an MOU is a first step. I really appreciate, and one of the biggest questions I have as well, Jeremy, is who is going to put parameters, who's going to help create structure to the implementation plan. I think that's a really important part of it. And I think it's worth definitely being really thoughtful about and conscious of. And I think that may be, again, one of the areas that this can provide some kind of pathway to move forward in a constructive way. There's just no getting around our need to work with Northwestern. I think that it's difficult to come into partnership with somebody when they have been potentially not as good of a partner in the past, especially on these issues that we care so deeply for. But I also feel like we have to have some kind of path. And I think, again, the beauty of an MOU is that it's binding to a degree, but it also creates some flexibility. And I think Chase seems to be very aware of that. And I would think that, again, the folks that will be signing this are probably aware. And it's probably why the MOU is the vehicle that they're using, is it does create some flexibility. And I think we just have to keep on taking one step and then another. And so it is very difficult. And again, I just want to say I really appreciate the questions that people are bringing. But I hope also as well that this can be potentially an avenue to create some kind of partnership for something that's different in the future.
Excellent comments, Gwen. And I see we've got some other hands up, but before we get too far ahead, what the plan was is to let Chase answer some questions, and then we can have more of a discussion once he's moved on to his other things. So back to you just for a minute, Chase. The question from Scott about ratepayers covering the cost, was that a conscious effort, or do you guys, how do you perceive the cost of some of the implementation on this proceeding? Would Northwestern Energy pay for any of those costs, or is it all our ratepayer, or maybe city and local governments, county governments?
Yeah, you know, I don't know all of those answers. I think those will be part of it, but you know, as I understand it, with any of the utilities costs, you know, they have the legal right to recoup those costs, and those rate changes are heard in front of the Montana Public Service Commission. And so my guess is it would that all of these things would follow that same process. If there were rate changes, it would be a very public process. It would be heard by the regulators who set those rates, not only for this, but for all of the energy in the state of Montana. And it would just be decided by them on a case-by-case basis as some of these projects are developed. In terms of the city or the utility paying for any portion of it on their own, I don't know the answer to that, because we don't have a project in front of us to consider that. But any costs to the city, also a public process, would be part of our budgeting process, heard by city council, and would be part of our public process. And so those are the best answers that I have for you now in terms of how those rates will be decided.
So just one clarification on that, Chase. This MOU does not preclude the city or the county from using its own funds for projects. Your understanding is not that.
That's right.
All right. Jeremy, so this implementation plan, the next steps, and I'm going to throw my little editorial comment in that, given the people on this call and the expertise in this stuff, I'm hoping that you'll rely on us and use our expertise in that process. Jeremy wanted to know how that plan will get formulated, and in particular, how do you address disagreements? There isn't really a provision in the MOU to deal with disagreements per se, or not, you know, how you would do that.
Sure. Yeah. So there isn't a provision on how to deal with disagreements in the formation of the implementation plan in the MOU. That is a good comment. And when we start to form that implementation plan, perhaps we should put some thought to that. But obviously we would put thought to it, but maybe some formality to that actually. In developing this MOU, you know, staff with leaders, Brian von Lossberg from City Council, Dale Bickle, the CAO of the city. On the county side, it was Dave Strohmeyer, and Diana was the staff person, along with the Northwestern Energy executive team. It usually went the way of staff developed a draft with points. It was reviewed by our internal city county teams. Those were approved and or changes were made due to their comments and their leadership. That was forwarded to Northwestern Energy to be reviewed by their folks. And it was kicked back and discussed in a meeting by all parties at that point until we came to an agreement. And so that was I don't know, it probably falls somewhere in between informal and formal, but that was the process to develop the MOU and how we negotiated the terms of the MOU. Perhaps we could put some more formality to negotiate that when we come to develop this implementation plan. I think that's a very good comment. I just don't know the exacts of that today.
No, that makes sense. And your comment, I think, also goes to, Scott's additional comment about this MOU needed additional work, and Gwen's comments about, this not being perfect, but building those pathways and relationships to trust being key are so important. Okay, so it's 1:32. So what I'm going to do is I've got 2 hands up. If what you have is a specific question for Chase, we'll try to get that in. Otherwise, we'll let Chase go and we'll have an internal discussion. Robin, is your question? Do you have a question for Chase specifically?
Sure, I do. Chase, do you can you comment on sort of the existing working relationship with Northwestern? And specifically, what have they delivered tangible that has been beneficial to the city's 100% renewable goal so far? And the second question would be, do you anticipate that this work would be impeded at all if there were no MOU for a little while? You can take them in whatever order.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Okay, Chase, you'd like
Sure.
to take those?
No, yeah, these are all really good questions, and I appreciate the discussion. So far, the things that come to mind that Northwestern Energy has contributed to our 100% clean electricity goal is they created a position specific to serve as the liaison to Missoula and other communities that wish to pursue similar initiatives and have set similar goals. Missoula was first by our resolution in April of last year. Since then, both Helena and Bozeman have passed similar goals and are working on similar initiatives in their own communities. So Northwestern Energy moved someone over from their procurement division to serve as that liaison. Some of you have met him. His name is John Bushnell. And so I believe that's a nod to taking these initiatives seriously by the utility. Also, a thing that comes to mind, and this part of the rate case that many of us were involved in last year, one of the stipulations that came out of that was for the utility to review their REC program and to develop a green tariff program. And they have done that. Both Diana Mineta, the staff from the county, and myself have been participating in that process with the parties that were interveners and were legally required to be part of that process with the utility. That was the Department of Environmental Quality, that was Walmart, and they were also an intervener. And so we've had 2 meetings to develop that green tariff, and that product is in motion and could work to serve our 100% clean electricity. We have put forward in alignment with our clean electricity that green tariff and that new product should be developed again with additional new renewable energy in Montana and other things that will align with 100%. So those are a couple things right off the bat. And then believe it or not, to develop this MOU took a lot of time. And their staff, not only John Bushnell, have participated in good faith in the development of this MOU. And so I think they've been thoughtful about it, and they have actively participated in it. So those are some things that come to mind in their support. I know you all are very aware of things that haven't. And then also in response to this, a lot of this work comes from an event that happened last year called Mountain Towns 2030 in Park City. And that's where we learned from the communities in Utah, Salt Lake, Park City, and Summit County on their own 100% clean electricity MOU and utility engagement. Their utility is Rocky Mountain Power. They're ahead of us. It's a model we've been studying. And so Northwestern Energy has hosted meetings of, again, the communities that I mentioned, City of Missoula, Missoula County, Bozeman, and Helena, as well as some other interested parties in the state to discuss. In Utah, it was called House Bill 411, which was the community renewable energy solution there. It's a little bit different than a green tariff, which is an opt-in solution. HB 411 in Utah is an opt-out solution. And so it was a piece of legislation that the Utah, that they passed and are working on toward their own 100% goals with communities in Utah. So all of those things, the utility has either engaged in or hosted toward recognizing our own needs as a community, stated and adopted needs and goals of 100% clean electricity.
Great, thank you, Chase. The other part, and I know Michael has a question too. I don't know if you can stay for that, but do you see a problem with how committed or important is this MOU for Northwestern or for yourself to engage in this work, I guess?
I think it's an important step because it formalizes our relationship to work together toward those goals. I also think that it builds the framework and articulates the areas that we should include in our implementation plan. And I think it addresses the urgency that we all feel toward making progress on this initiative. So for those reasons, I think it would be great if the City Council and Board of County Commissioners decided to adopt it, and the same for the Energy and Climate Team to endorse it. But you know, we have a public process for items if they need more work, and important citizen groups like yourselves and elected bodies like the City Council and Board of County Commissioners, then you know we'll hear that and we'll go back to work. But for the reasons I stated, that's why we decided to develop it and bring it forward now.
Okay, thanks, Chase. Michael, do you have a question for Chase?
Yeah, just a real quick comment for Chase and then let him go. And then I have several other comments that I want to make on things that have been discussed thus far. Hey, Chase, really appreciate, as Chris pointed out in the beginning, that you were willing to come and talk to us and explain how all of this has worked together and the history of it. And I do appreciate you taking the time to do that. So Chris, if you want to let Chase go and then I can finish talking.
Yeah, Chase, we really do appreciate it. I'm sure we'll have more questions. But yeah, we only have 20 minutes left to see if we'll get through this resolution process or not, but hopefully we'll hear from you this evening. Also, I've got a note into Amber about whether she wants us to talk about this resolution, but we'll talk about that once you're offline. But thanks so much, Chase. Your help is much appreciated, and your work on this MOU is certainly seen by everyone on our team. You know, whether we're fully on board or not, it's still trying to write these MOUs is never an easy process. I can appreciate that.
Sure.
So.
Well, thanks for those words, but it's my job, and the appreciation is back to you and the elected officials for doing volunteer or nearly volunteer work. So I appreciate your comments and questions. It will only make it better, and I promise you that's what we all want to do. I guess just a quick question, whether it's appropriate or not. Do I have to go, or may I listen to the discussion? I just think it might help inform tonight's discussion or become part of it, or things like that. And it seems a priority in my time for today to to make that happen, unless you would prefer me to leave, which I will obviously observe, and that's fine.
It's a good question, Chase.
It's a
You're right,
public
it could be-
meeting.
Yeah, it's a public meeting. Obviously, we're not going to kick you off. No, it's just really what we need to do is circle in as a team and get to the point, you know, do we need to make some changes to this? So I guess maybe more to the point is we're going to table questions. It's now everyone's opportunity to put in any comments they wish, and we need to reserve ourselves at least 5 minutes for a motion and a second and a vote. So it's 1:42. So we've got about, 15, 17 minutes altogether, just to let everyone know from a time standpoint.
So I'll just mute and I'll turn my video off, and I'll listen with all the respect in the world that you all are due in your discussion. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Chase. All right, so it's back to Michael for some comments.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Chris. So just jumping in at one spot, there's a lot to touch on here. I've spent about the past 4 months working with the community with the COVID crisis and having to have some really difficult conversations. As I've told people before, it's difficult sometimes to even want to answer the phone because it's going to be somebody mad that I'm not closing something or somebody mad that I did close something. But these conversations are really difficult. A lot of times a little face saving up front really helps move things down the road. And in times where, yeah, you're not getting everything you want, or sometimes even close, but if you're even getting movement, or sometimes even just that the conversation has been broached, is really oftentimes what you need to consider a win. And it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. It doesn't mean it's the end of the line, and we can keep working on it, and we need to keep working on it. But we have a lot of things working against us right now. I talked briefly with Amy Sillenberg about the MOU as well, and nobody thinks that this is perfect, but at the same time, it's what we can get. And NWE is always going to have as their first and foremost priority their shareholders, and that's their legal right to do so. Getting them to the table and getting them to talk about things to even start moving things forward is big. Given that we are totally lacking in any national leadership that's consistent or effective or even thoughtful about many things, let alone climate change issues, the fact that NWE is even at the table with us and talking, I think is a win. And of course, there are many things that we can talk about and try and change and try and move forward and try and make better. And we won't give up doing that. That's the point of us even being here as a group. But to Gwen too specifically, hey, don't give up, Gwen. It's rough out there. I understand, believe me. But oftentimes, even though the conversations are very hard to have, and even though it hurts to give up the things you have to give up to even get the conversation started, it's still worth doing because we're still making progress. Sometimes it's just chipping away a few cubes at a giant iceberg, but sometimes it's moving that iceberg a little forward and getting some momentum going so that eventually we can make some real dramatic substantive changes. I really appreciate everything Scott and Jeremy and everyone has brought up. And I agree with your points. I think there are things that do need to be figured out, but we've got them at the table. We're getting them talking. The next steps are the next steps. We're baby stepping right now. And the fact that we can even baby step, given the current national climate and a novel viral global pandemic, I think is really impressive. And Brian too, thank you for your input on it. And I would just push that, yes, this is not perfect, but it's also something to get things moving forward. And if us doing this and this MOU going forward helps keep NWA at the table by saving them a little face, by helping them put out to the community a nice green face, and then we can continue to make further substantive changes as this goes. It is what it is. It hurts, and sometimes you just have to swallow and take the pain. But I think we should move forward with supporting this.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, so we've got Scott, then Robin, then Brian, then Josh. So we'll all get a chance to talk. we'll maybe wrap it up with Gwen and Jeremy. So let's start with Scott.
So I'm going to be really, really quick. The answer to my question about why am I being so pushy in terms of this MOU is I want our team and our committee to have relevance. So if you're on a team, you would like to be able to get the material ahead of time and have meaningful input. At this stage, we're being asked to approve, as Michael and Gwen have suggested we ought, an MOU. And I understand that we ought to move forward because this is probably as good as we are going to get. But this is also a plea to be involved in these kind of critical decisions. And that would have been one of the questions I would have posed to Chase. How come we were never involved in the development of this to begin with? Because there is a lot of talent on the committee. So thank you to Michael and Gwen for being so eloquent in terms of stating what you think ought to be done. And I agree with you.
Thank you, Scott. And I agree with what you're saying as well. All right, Robin.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna just say where I'm at and, appreciate, Michael's comments about this is, a very, very hard thing sometimes when it's not, ideal or what have everything you'd hope for. And that's, I guess, the nature of the beast when you collaborate with an entity that you might not see eye to eye on, but you want to work with nevertheless. And that said, I appreciate all the effort that's been done in this and the thoughtfulness and the details too are helpful that have been added. And so I support the work, and I don't want that to be understated at all, that it's really valuable. I agree with everything everyone said about having this working relationship with Northwestern. There's a couple things, there's at least one thing in here that I find very problematic, and that is on page 3 regarding one of the principles. I believe that any changes, any efforts or any things that results from this will avoid a cost shift between Northwestern's customers. That's like a poison pill for me, because that's the exact argument that they use to attack rooftop solar, neighborhood community solar, and it's a complete misrepresentation of, or it's a complete it's a talking point that has very, very little basis in fact. You can't avoid, there's always a cost shift. Rural customers that get electrical lines, we're, people in cities that don't have infrastructure costs, subsidize them. If you really want to have equity, which is another principle, then maybe you need to subsidize or have consideration for low income customers and whatnot. So this is something I'm going to separately bring up to the county commissioners for sure. And I know that, Northwestern likes to have its certain things in here, and it rightfully should. I will say lastly, because I know we're low on time, that I remember in 2009 when Governor Schweitzer came up with a climate action plan for the state and involved all these stakeholders. There were 54 recommendations. You would be hard pressed to see any of those implemented now. What it ended up being is death by committee. It ended up being a lot of people talking about doing things and not a whole lot else resulting from it. And I would say that I would be very much in support of this if it were a year later or 2 years later and Northwestern showed good faith, not just in talking about it, but in doing something. And a $25,000 curriculum doesn't meet the threshold for me. So, if they want to be real, they should do something real and then come back and get this going. But I feel like it's premature until they've shown good faith through action. So I will not be supporting this at this time.
Thank you very much, Robin. Brian?
Yeah, thanks. Everybody has some very thoughtful comments. I just will iterate just a little bit of my experience. I've been working with Northwestern Energy for a decade or more. And I think it's pretty easy to get them to sit down at a table. We've had dozens of meetings with them. And in fact, 3 weeks ago, we had a meeting with Bob Rowe with a bunch of his VPs. Some of you may know the university is trying to proceed with a combined heat and power plant. And we've tried to involve and we have involved Northwestern Energy. And I think I'll have to agree with Rob and death by committee. They always show up. They're always agreeable. They bring their heavy hitters, and every meeting seems like the last meeting. They never have any answers. They always have questions. We provide questions. It took us months to sign a non-disclosure agreement. We thought once we had that agreement signed, maybe that will be the impetus to finally get some stuff done. They were going to do it in a month. It took them 3 months to get it done. And at the end of that agreement, it's just, again, it's the same meeting over and over again. We've thrown our hands up. We'll continue to work with them. I say work with them. We just have meetings with them. And I know John Bushnell. I'll support it, but I wish the city good luck on it, because that's based on 10 years of experience with Northwest Energy.
Yeah, very good. Josh?
I really, me too, I appreciate everything Scott's raised. I share many of your concerns and skepticism about one of the parties involved in this MOU. Very quickly, I'm going to support this today, though, because MOUs are symbolic in nature, and no one's going to get dragged into court in a few years if people walk away from this and don't do anything about it. It's going to come down to the court of public opinion on whether people are held accountable. And one line in this that I like, that I want to hang on, is Northwest Energy seeks to support the city and county's 100% clean electricity goal. That line right there, if the city stated their goals and their plans, and if Northwest isn't supporting that 6 months from now, a year from now, we can hold them accountable, court of a public opinion, and say, hey, you said you're going to support the city and its goals, and you're not doing it. And then 4 years from now, when many of us are maybe still on this committee, we can revisit whether they are upholding their end of the bargain that they entered in this MOU. So that's all I have. I'm going to support it today, but that's not to take anything away from what Scott said, because I thought about it a lot this week, and I've been all over the place with this one. Thanks, everyone. A great discussion also. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. It really is. It's great to hear such impassioned and thoughtful discussion on this. We're at 1:55. We have maybe a minute or so. If Gwen or Jeremy have a comment. Gwen, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate being party to this discussion and being on this committee with you all. You all bring a lot to the table. You all have a lot of gifts, and it's really helpful, and it challenges me in ways that I really appreciate. I guess, one of the main things that I keep on coming back to is this is certainly not perfect. But when I think about what the alternative is, the alternative would be some of the same kind of banging our head on the door. I know this isn't perfect, but again, I feel like it is potentially a path. It's not as binding as something else. That's the nature of an MOU. So I support moving forward with it. And although, again, there are parts to it that make everyone uncomfortable, and we obviously have a history that we can certainly pull strong evidence that, maybe this won't go as well as we hope. There's also that potential that it could go better. And I think that, again, there's just such a change happening. One of the things I really hope that I think is really important work right now is to really identify the value systems that we want to use as we create whatever it is that's coming in the future. And I hope that's a big part of the work that maybe might be collaborative, is what are those value systems? You know, what do we want to protect? And I'm really interested, obviously, in sustainable value systems. But I just hope, again, as maybe kind of a Northern Star, a touch point, that can be one of the first things that happens, is really to identify the value systems that we want to move forward in this MOU with Northwestern Energy. So thank you guys for the discussion day. I really, really appreciate all of you.
Okay, I'm going to put out there, Jeremy, does anybody, do you have a quick comment, Jeremy?
Chris, the only thing I want to say is I just echoing many of the things that Josh said and Gwen said, and concerns that Scott has expressed, and Michael, and so forth. I do believe that the MOU is better than not having one at all. So I will be voting in favor of it. I do think that it is critical for us to remain involved as the implementation plan is developed. And I'm hopeful that we have specific avenues to provide input and to be involved as the implementation plan is formed, rather than just hearing about it at the conclusion of the implementation plan being developed. So I'm hopeful that we can work with Chase on that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. All righty. Does anybody want to put a motion forward on the resolution 2020-1? Oh, Amber has a comment.
Sorry, I had my hand up in the virtual
Oh, you
world.
did, and I missed it.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make a comment, and I have a 2 o'clock appointment that I need to get on. So I really appreciate this conversation. I've been taking lots of notes as I've heard all of you, your points, and I think I agree with all of them. They're all very well taken. I do hope that you would come tonight, Chris, and give a just kind of from the energy and conservation team, that you would give a review of the conversation and a resolution of whatever you decide today. So I think that would be really helpful, and I think it would be a powerful step. And I think that it would, I'm coming into this new, but I think that it sounds like it is a first step, and also kind of getting your team more involved and giving city council some different, perspectives, like me sitting here and listening to these. This is really, really helpful for me. So anyway, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I need to go off. I'm going to watch the end of the video online and find out what you decided before my meeting tonight.
Well,
Thank you,
really
everyone.
Appreciate it. Really appreciate it, Amber. All right, does anybody wish to forward a motion on this?
Hey, Chris, I'll move that we accept the MOU as written.
Okay, did we have a second? Okay, Josh is the second. Okay, I'm going to do a roll call here because it sounds like we need to do that. Josh, yay or nay? Yay?
Yay. Yep.
Robin? Nay. Gwen? Yay. Jeremy?
In favor.
All right, Brian?
And support.
In support. Michael?
Yay.
Okay, Chris, I'm in. And Scott?
Reluctant, yes.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 yays and 1 nay. The resolution passes. And I will be at the meeting tonight virtually. I can also, if anybody else wants to attend, please let me know. We'll certainly try to get other folks' input as well. So reach out to me afterwards if you're interested. Jeremy?
Do we know, so the meeting starts at 7. Do we have any idea if it's at the beginning of the meeting or in the middle, or?
The agenda is available. I'll send it out. We're pretty close to the beginning of the agenda.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is Kirsten. I'm facilitating the meeting for you. The city council actually changed the time that their meetings start. They start at 6 o'clock tonight, not 7.
Okay, 6 o'clock, and I'll send out the agenda, and we're near the top, the one I saw. All right,
Okay.
so appreciate everybody doing this, and I'm afraid we don't have last minute comments. We ran out of time, but everyone was really involved. They appreciate it. So with that, this meeting is adjourned, and I'll send some notes out in the next couple of days as to what happens tonight.
Thank you.
Great job, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, looks like we got it done. We're all set?
Yeah, we're all set. And I think I captured enough of, we just do summary minutes because the video is the official record. But I think I captured everything to where I can have those attached to your item at City Council tonight.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and you have a copy of the resolution as well.
Yes, it's uploaded to the item. And so the motion that I put in there for you guys is that you were approving your support for the resolution as it moves forward.
Exactly. All
Okay.
right, well, so much. That was great. Appreciate it. And
That was a good meeting.
it was a good meeting.
Yeah, you guys did a good job. I'll see you later.
All right, thanks you.